What's up? Welcome in on this Thursday night. It's the Rebel Report. My name is Michael Borky. Glad that you guys are here. Let me turn the music down so we can get started. Really appreciate you guys being here. So a couple of things we've got to get to. Number one, no surprise to anybody, but it is now being reported nationally that Trinidad Chambliss is going to get a second start for Ole Miss. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then I've got a Tulane preview for you. From somebody that's going to be on the sidelines for the Tulane broadcast on Saturday. She was a really good interview, and in 9 minutes packed a whole lot of information in there. So we got those two things to discuss tonight. And, of course, read your comments and more on this edition of the show. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Just search Rebel Report and subscribe and leave a rating and a review. Also, right here on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And check out Toyota of Brookhaven. They're bringing you tonight's show. Wherever you are in Mississippi or even outside of Mississippi, you want a good car buying experience. When that time comes, you want to go to somebody that's going to take care of you and treat you like a person and not try to work one over on you. That's the experience that you'll get at Toyota of Brookhaven. So check out their website, toyotabrookhaven.com. You don't need to live in the area. They will still take care of you. They'll also give you $1,000 off on me if you just tell them that I sent you. They have one of the highest rated service departments in the state of Mississippi. Check them out, toyotaofbrookhaven.com. They will deliver for you. All right, to nobody's surprise, Chris Lowe reporting from On 3. Trinidad Chambliss is expected to make his second start for Ole Miss on Saturday against Tulane. Austin Simmons, who opened the season as the starter, continues to work through an injured ankle. This was, we all saw what happened in the Kentucky game, and then we all saw what happened in the Arkansas game as well. Austin Simmons is not healthy, and you don't go from unable to walk to playing effective football more so than what Trinidad can give you in a week. It just is not something that, again, I'm not a doctor, but it doesn't look like something that a human is capable of. And there's no reason to rush Austin Simmons back for this game. That never really made sense anyway. That kind of injury takes time. And to be honest with you, if Ole Miss can't beat Tulane with Trinidad, then it doesn't really matter whether or not Austin Simmons is healthy or not, because it's not a playoff team and they're not reaching their goals in 2025. I know that's overly simplistic, but we should not at all be surprised by this. I expect Ole Miss offensively to have some success, to be honest with you, on Saturday. I think that I think in this game, they'll have success running the football as well. Ole Miss up front and at the skill positions is a very difficult matchup for Tulane. It really is. And I think Ole Miss is going to have, as long as they're sharp, right, as long as they're not turning the football over, having poorly timed penalties, Ole Miss has an advantage over Tulane offense versus Tulane's defense in the offensive front, but the skill positions, they'll have a mismatch basically almost every week. Ole Miss will be more talented there. So I'm not worried about the offense. This is another week where Trinidad needs to just play within the offense, not force anything, let his playmakers do their thing, and it will be fine. This is not a game where you have to force the football. This is not a game where you have to take risks really at all. Just play mistake-free, and you will move the football, and you will score points, and you'll be fine. I am far less worried about who is starting for quarterback at Ole Miss in this game than I am what they're going to do defensively. I mean, Ole Miss is in the bottom of the SEC in defense, both scoring and rushing. It's not been a good start to the season. Now, very few teams have played 2 conference games. Nobody has. Other than them. So that is something to keep in mind as well, that those stats are skewed by not having an extra cupcake mixed in there. But, I mean, Georgia State moved the football okay on that Ole Miss defense at times. So that's what I'm paying close attention to. That's what I'm, quote-unquote, worried about with this game and Ole Miss's ability to win it. Is can they adjust from how easily exploited they were last week, how easily Arkansas was able to get them out of position, how easily they were able to give up contain, and Taylor Green was able to go off. Retzloff is not the athlete that Green is, but he is an athlete, and he can run They've played 2 Power 4 games, has Tulane, and he's run for over 100 yards in both of them. Ironically enough, the one game that they didn't play against a power team is the game he did not run for 100 yards, but he's an effective runner. If Ole Miss can keep him in the pocket and force him to throw the football, they'll be okay. But if they're getting out of position, if their eyes are in the wrong place, if their fits are bad, it's going to be a long day, because Arkansas was able to show you how you can exploit this Ole Miss defense. Have they made the appropriate adjustments? That's the issue. That's the thing you need to pay attention to. I'm not worried about the offense. I'm not worried about Trinidad. I'm not worried about Kewan Lacey or the wide receivers. They'll be fine. I expect points, and I expect a pretty heavy volume of them. The other side of the ball is really the key of this game, even though everybody, understandably so, is focused on Trinidad. We'll get to the interview after I tell you the podcast is brought to you in part by Advantage Business Systems. They're online at absms.com. They're based in Jackson, but they can take care of you anywhere. If you are a Mississippi business and you need office technology, Mississippi business, office technology, absms.com. Tell them I sent you. You'll get a complimentary office technology assessment. All right, here's that interview. It's about 9 minutes. It's really good stuff from Maddy Hudak. She covers Tulane and also does sidelines on their radio broadcast. So really good stuff here. Here's that interview now, and I'll see you on the other side.
Now, Maddy, let's start here. I actually want to go back to last week, because it's a story that happened in New Orleans that is very, I guess it's the new normal in college football, but Tulane has their quarterback poached by Duke. They pay him millions of dollars. Ironically enough, he has to go to Tulane to play a game, and the Green Wave get the better of him. What was that environment like?
Yeah, I have to say the first part of what you said is expected in college football, having your quarterback leave, having them then show up the next year in a non-conference game. Really rare situation. I have to say, I would probably place that environment alongside the 2022 American Conference Championship game, but it really felt, an actual hostility in there for a first time, and you could feel the impact on the field. I think it really was kind of a coming out party for what Yeoman Stadium can be, and yeah, it was probably the most rowdy home environment I've been a part of.
And so, John Summerall, I saw his coach's show, and he was asking, how can I get this to be every home game? He seems very intentional with what he does. I've been impressed with him for a long time. We talk about him a lot on this show, unfortunately for Tulane, when jobs come open or are about to. What kind of coach is he? Forget on the field, but behind the scenes, in your interaction with him, what is he like?
I just remember when he first came in December, and it felt like we all had really known him for a long time. It helped that he was previously the linebackers coach and defensive coordinator for Tulane. So we remembered our color analyst, Steve, from, 12 years ago at this point. But he's just a personable guy. You hear the stuff about him being a player's coach, a good motivator, and all that really translates in his personality. He's probably the most fun coach I've been around to cover, and he's very, candid and blunt with everything that he says. But, yeah, he's an A1 person, and is just really great to our broadcast crew and all the insight he gives us.
So what can you tell us, just an elevator pitch about this Tulane team in particular? We'll get into the details in a second, but elevator pitch. What is this particular Tulane football team?
What is the what of the Tulane football team?
Elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch. I got you. Well, it's a team of new faces, but it's a team that's come together really incredibly quickly. I think they've really been able to use the transfer portal to their advantage more than they've honestly been hurt by it. I think you've seen them take on a really new identity with Jake Retzloff, who definitely showed a chip on his shoulder in that win last weekend. But the defense also has their flowers as well. The pass rush that we heard everything about all spring, all fall that I could see in a practice setting, we've really seen it come to life on the field, and that's really, where the defense starts and ends.
I'm sure you saw it last week. Talon Green in an Arkansas offense. He's super talented and they're schemed well, but that read option really got to that Ole Miss defense. Retzloff, athletic in his own right. Does Tulane do similar things offensively to Arkansas, and do you think they'll be able to exploit whatever weakness Ole Miss showed the Razorbacks last week?
Yeah, I think Jake Retzloff's mobility, it's kind of surprised us all, and we keep hearing from players, just the deceptive speed that he has, that we really, as Chaz Preston, our wide receiver, said, he didn't really see it on film. We couldn't really see that type of speed in a practice setting, but he just runs really well, and I think that opens up, like you said, the read option offense, and he's very good at reading the defense, having those late pulls. He's just very smart back there, and I think that's really what's worked well for Tulane, and I think something that's really important for them at this stage is what's been working for them, less about, how do we kind of exploit weaknesses on the other side. I think where they're still trying to kind of learn about what this offense does and how it ticks, it just so happens to kind of match up with what you said about there being a weakness on Ole Miss's side, but really just kind of leaning into, I think, what's made them work so far. And that all has to start really with the mobility of Retzloff, which we expected, I think, a little more from his competitor in Brendan Sullivan, who we've seen come in a few times purely as a passer. But I joked last week that, Jake Retzloff kind of absorbed not just Darian Mensah, but the loss of Mekhi Hughes. And it's not because the running backs haven't been able to produce. He's just been really, really smart with the football and knowing when to run it.
On that note, so what kind of weapons is he operating with? For those that have not watched Tulane to this point this year, tell me about the running back room and the group of wide receivers that he's got to work with.
Yeah, so the running back room, it is headlined by Mo Maurice Turner from the Louisville Cardinals. He did get hurt in the first game. I think we're hoping to see him this week. The rest of that room, we have a transfer, Zuberi Mobley from the FAU Owls. Arnold Barnes is back on the team. He has really great power. And then just a giant surprise, I think, and a true freshman in Javen Gordon. They actually, I flipped him from the Duke Blue Devils this last offseason. And you saw a lot in practice, but he's just come on and developed really, really quickly. And that's really mattered. And then the wide receiver group, I think, was kind of the unknown heading into this season. You just lost so many proven guys, Mario Williams, Keith Brown, Dante Fleming, and you brought in some guys that you're just not totally sure about. But I think you really started to see them finally click last week. Omari Hayes, he's really come on, another transfer from FAU. Shaz Preston, and I think this is going to be a big game for him after transferring from Alabama and not really getting able to play much last year, but being able to prove that he can compete on an SEC stage. I also think Retzloff has kind of favored his tight ends quite a bit. We've seen a lot more usage of them, Justin Reed, Johnny Pascuzzi, and Anthony Miller, and I think that you can kind of expect that, especially with that kind of size mismatch I think they'll be hoping for.
On the other side of the ball, I think that Ole Miss's best position group as a team is its wide receivers. What kind of challenge are they up against with Tulane's defense?
Yeah, well, I think Tulane's defense is finally tested in that aspect, and I would have been worried if they hadn't previously gone up against the Duke Blue Devils last week, where they really had to shut down a really good trio of receivers and a great passing quarterback. They were tested a little bit. You have some newer guys at corner that I think are still kind of finding their rhythm, but to have the guys in the secondary and Bailey Despaney and Jack Chinchu, Despaney is like our longest tenured guy. He's a fifth-year player at this point, has started for the last couple seasons. It's like a unicorn in college football now. Jack Chinchu, just a really scrappy guy that played really well against Kansas State and Oklahoma last year and has really grown into a starter in his own right. And so I think having the middle of the defense alongside our spear, Javian White, who has 3 interceptions now in 3 games, I think that the coverage, I think, would have been a little more of a concern if they hadn't had the experience they did last week, but they pretty much blanketed what they needed to for Duke.
And Lane Kiffin, I'm sure you saw it, had high praise for this team in particular, and a John Summerall team is going to have a clear identity, solid tacklers, sound defense, and all of those things. I mean, last time Ole Miss went down to Tulane, they had different circumstances, of course, but Ole Miss had to battle for 4 quarters just to win that game. Now you've got a John Summerall coach defense. What about the front 6? And, Ole Miss's offensive line in the first 2 weeks had some questions, much better against Arkansas, but what does Tulane present in the defensive front to Ole Miss's running game and offensive line?
Yeah, so I got to say I think they've struggled a little with the run defense this entire season, and that'll be something I'll be curious to kind of watch coming into this matchup. They've really excelled just on the depth on their O-line. They run a 3-4 scheme. They have 4 guys up there. One's called a bandit. I keep wanting to say banjo. They've dropped back a little more into coverage, I think, that I've kind of seen these last couple weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of use the pass rush this week. But I think you just have a really strong interior there headlined by Santana Hopper, and they've gotten a lot more production off the edge than I think that we've kind of seen in recent weeks. It's just kind of those explosive plays that they've allowed out of the backfield by some running backs that it's going to be kind of a point for them to key in on in that front 6 this week.
Tulane's one of only a handful of teams in the country that have 2 Power 4 wins. Are you surprised by that?
Surprise might not be the right word. I think, again, just not knowing anything, having Jake Retzloff literally show up to campus a week before training camp started and then have to go up against, a Big Ten team in week 1 when they opened against an FCS opponent last year. But I think, the Duke one, that was really a challenge of, it's a good opponent, but there's a lot of emotion here and a lot of, perhaps hard feelings. Are they able to kind of get through that and focus on the challenge at the end? But I think that they've shown that they're the better team in both of those contests. It's not like they've won because the other team just kept committing mistakes. although there were some mistakes to be found here and there, I think they've really started strong in those first couple of matchups, and that's really been what the difference maker is their ability to set the tone. And I think that it's been, when we got the schedule released, it was kind of, okay, well, you lose Darian Mensah, you lose Mekhi Hughes, you lose so many guys on offense and defense as starters. How do they get through the first half of this schedule? And I think they've really done quite well.
Got about 90 seconds here, and I'm going to throw a two-part question at you, so we're going to test your speed here. If Tulane pulls the upset, what was the main reason why? And if they don't win the game, if they lose to Ole Miss on Saturday, what was the main reason why?
I honestly think that it might just be the turnover game. I think that that's really going to be important. You look at Tulane's last couple of matchups and when those turnovers happened, what that allowed the other team to do. I think protecting the football is really just going to be essential. But I think if they're able to win this game, it's going to take a three-part effort. But I think it has to be led by Retzloff. And really what I think is going to be an extremely important factor is the fact that he has experience in these Big 12 stadiums. It's not the same as an SEC environment. I know that from when we visited in 2021, but it's close enough. And I just think his leadership and poise will be what gets them through.
Maddy, outstanding stuff. Really.
All right, really good stuff there. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I told you she packs in a lot in a little. So really talented and good resource for Tulane sports. We'll get to your comments after I tell you the podcast is brought to you in part by Priority One Bank. They make you their priority every day, just like they do me. They've got 16 locations here in Mississippi, so there's likely to be one near you. There's one right down the road from me. They've got local loan servicing and decision-making. Their online banking platform is outstanding. You want to switch to a bank that's going to care about the Mississippian out there? That's Priority One Bank. They make you their priority. Austin, what's up? Good to see you. Not going to lie, you like the uniform matchup on Saturday, traditional and classic. I called that one, didn't I? I called it. I had no inside information, but I figured they were going to go navy gray, and sure enough, they did. Todd, good to see you. The sun rises in the east. Chambliss starts against Tulane. Yeah. Do I believe Memphis versus Tulane later this year is a play-in game for the playoffs? Could be. UNLV's out there. They've got a power win right now. I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like, though. Boise State already lost. USF has also that power win. Losing to Miami is not going to change much. So it's between that group, that small group. So I've seen the line bounce between 11.5 and 13.5. Feels about right. I think so. Something like 35-17 is my score prediction for whatever that's worth. Although I think Ole Miss might score more than that. I kind of expect offensively them to have a big day. Trinidad Chambliss, is that his middle name? I learned something new today. Chambliss gets the start. Certainly sounds like it. I mean, it's the most practical, right? It's the one that makes the decision that makes the most sense, all factors considered. Maybe next week gets a little bit more dicey, and I would expect Lane to play some games with that anyway, just to kind of throw LSU off guard. But that would be an extra week of rest for Simmons. I just don't know if you rush him back for that game, considering that I think you should be able to keep that score relatively low. I don't know. I mean, next week is far more interesting than this week when it comes to the quarterback. Trinidad was starting this weekend. But with a week off, does that mean Simmons is healthy enough and ready to play? We'll see. Quote, everyone is saying Ole Miss saw a very easy defense in Arkansas. I think he adapts and shocks some people. Sure shocked me. I mean, I would expect Kiffin and company to have a great plan, but Summerall and them will as well. I don't think athletically Tulane's going to be able to present enough to match up for 4 quarters against this offense. Could this be a Jalen Hurts Tua quarterback situation? Could it be? Sure. I do think that this is still Simmons' job when 100% healthy. I still believe that. Say, in my opinion, Chambliss is more in position to get Ole Miss to the playoff with his explosiveness. Don't get me wrong. Simmons is the future. See, I feel the opposite. I think Chambliss has – I mean, look, if he keeps playing the way he did the other night, Ole Miss can make the playoff with him as well. But I do think the explosiveness in the offense will be or is could be better with Simmons. He's just got to be more consistent. 2 of his interceptions were because of pressure. But I think that he's got the high-level arm talent that Chambliss does not. What Trinidad did last week was protect the football, play smart, make good decisions, extend the play with his legs some as well. But when talking about pure explosiveness, I think that Simmons raises the ceiling of the offense from that perspective. If I told you Austin plays against LSU, are you shocked? Not at all. Guys, it's a non-starter. Simmons is the quarterback. He's just injured. He's been there on a smaller scale and understands the game, and he sees the field. Has to continue, though. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's only done it once. You got to do it again. And we'll see Saturday. I think offensively they're going to have success, though, regardless of who's playing quarterback. Excuse me. Can't stop the run. If they can't stop the run, might be a long day. Will be a long day if they can't. I think the offensive staff has had really good plans against Kentucky and Arkansas. Been a nice change of pace compared to last year. I agree with you completely, especially their plan against Arkansas. But yes, even Kentucky, after the game settled down after those 2 interceptions, they scored 30 points in 3 quarters on the road against a Mark Stoops coach defense. That's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. Simmons is the guy, has way more upside potential. No one's going to deny that he has trouble seeing the field in confidence. He can snap out of that, though. Yeah. Chambliss's mobility fits the O-line better and may add a more dynamic option at quarterback. No doubt, though, Simmons is still the guy. I agree. How much do you think this game could shape the concern about the defense? I do think the sample size is skewed, but it's not great. If they can't stop a mobile quarterback again this week, if they don't look significantly better against, they're going to get very similar looks. I mean, Tulane is going to do similar things to what Arkansas did and dare Ole Miss to stop it because they couldn't last week, really, with the exception of a couple of possessions. If Retzloff, with his lack of ability to throw the football down the field compared to Talon Green, if he still goes off running the football and you still got to face John Mateer, I mean, if Stockton does to Ole Miss what he looked like he could do against Tennessee, then that's tough. I mean, Sellers is mobile. The outlook's not good if it does not look significantly better. If you're an Ole Miss fan, you should hope Arkansas runs wild on Memphis. Yes, I agree. Defense has to prove they can stop the run or make it where they don't get run all over and get stops. SEC play will burn them otherwise. Most importantly, I think the biggest thing to me is that they have not – I mean, they've got the one big turnover, right? But they have not capitalized on turnover opportunities that they've created for themselves. That's the thing that this defense needs to do better than it currently does. If we're not talking about run defenses, they have given themselves and put themselves in position to turn opponents over a lot, and they just don't execute it. And I think that's a problem. It's, there's that old, well, that's why they play defensive back and not wide receiver, but not at this level. You need to catch the football. And when you're in position to turn your opponent over and you repeatedly can't do it, you're really just giving them extra chances. And they did that on Saturday against Arkansas. You've got to catch the football. If you get in position to have an interception and flip the game, you've got to do it. The pass breakups aren't good enough when it should be more. So they need to improve on that as well. Stated that a few days ago. They need to run wild on anyone they play, especially this weekend. Of the show, don't think Chambliss is the guy. And then the next comment is, Chambliss is the guy. You think Summerall is too good of a coach to have his guys have a letdown after beating Duke? Yeah, they'll be ready to play. They might not athletically be able to match up, but they will be prepared. They will not be intimidated. They will have a good scheme. They will have a good game plan. Yes. They just may not have the horses. But when it comes to preparedness and coaching, they've got that. If Ole Miss beats the hell out of Tulane, then we will come back Saturday talking about a really impressive win. Because again, they've got one of only a handful of schools that has 2 Power 4 wins so far this season. They're so well coached. If Ole Miss wins something like 42-10, we're having a real conversation about this team. I know it's just Tulane, but that's the kind of team that they're up against. If they can have 2 SEC games, come down with a non-conference opponent, knowing that LSU is next week, if that translates to a really nice performance, then that's, yeah. Still concerned about the bad snaps. Certainly can be better there. Kiffin said he expects Summerall to be an SEC coach next year. What program of the possible candidates do you think is most likely? Arkansas? I think Florida's going to end up with Alex Galesh. If he was that guy, he would have went somewhere to start. Not necessarily. He's getting paid pretty well at Ole Miss. Maybe wanted to shoot a shot in the SEC as opposed to, be a Sun Belt starter or something like that. But there's a question about the rest of the schedule, including Tulane. Let's say Ole Miss averages 30 points against every opponent left. How many games do they win? If they score 30 points against every opponent that they have left, how many games do they win? That's a good question. I don't think 30 will get it done in Norman. I don't think 30 will get it done in Athens. And I think 30 can win the rest. Can win the rest. Not necessarily will, but I think it can. I would say that they would lose 3 games. If it's like literally just 30 points per game, like actually applying the number 30 to every game, yeah, I think they would lose 3. Didn't know Retzlaff has a 59% completion percentage. Yeah, I mean, he's vertically throwing the football, not great. I would expect Ole Miss to really focus on stopping the run and trusting their secondary to make some plays, put them on islands, stuff like that. Only 2 passes in the first 3 games beyond 20 yards. That's insane. Ole Miss is 3rd in the country in explosive play rate. Just hope Tulane's quarterback doesn't run all over Ole Miss like Arkansas did. That's the test of the game. Would I trade Missouri for Tulane? No, I would not. Tulane doesn't have the infrastructure to play in the SEC. They don't have the fan support. They don't have the infrastructure. I would love New Orleans to be in the rotation, but no. Sounds odd, but Ole Miss could be playing a playoff team from the group of 6. Yeah, they could. Prediction for Tuesday when the permanent opponents get revealed: LSU, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt. Could be that. And I will say this, mentioned on the radio show today. I don't want to talk about conference expansion and stuff tonight. I got to go here in a second anyway. But the reporting is that they'll assign the 3 permanent opponents, and they, with the opportunity to revisit it in 4 years. So starting in 2026, 4 years from then is 2030. Put on your tinfoil hat with me. That is the same year that ACC schools are going to be able to buy themselves out of the conference, in effect. Buy themselves out of their grant of rights with their TV deal. Same year. So revisiting the permanent opponents the same time the ACC schools are going to be looking for new homes. 1 + 1 sometimes equals 2. I think Missouri would beat Ole Miss. They're very good. That's why I talked about them all offseason. Not worried about the receivers. Would like to see Lacey, Chambliss, and the combination of Taylor and Diggs get some good work. Explosive runs are one of the best things the Kiffin offense can do. Curious to see how the defense responds this week. Not quite the same challenge, but still a tough matchup. You're right. Not the same challenge, but still one. And if they just get run through, you got a big problem. What's up, Justin? Good to see you. Tulane is +6 in the turnover margin through 3 games. Yeah, Duke was really sloppy in their game as well. Don't give them Arkansas as a permanent opponent. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't want to see that game go away either. Do I think game day comes to Ole Miss or Bama, Georgia? Because I don't think they'll go to Oregon, Penn State, because game day normally doesn't go to games being played on NBC. I have heard, and I think they do this with multiple spots, so this is not a guarantee, but I have heard that game day has made preparations in Oxford. That's what I've heard. Very little in the league this week. Thoughts on some other games? Yeah, the SEC slate this weekend not the best, although Auburn, Oklahoma is so freaking interesting. Really, really, really interesting game. Jackson Arnold making his return to Norman. I don't quite understand the vitriol. I mean, he's going to get, the villain treatment there, and I don't understand that. They wanted him out. They wanted him gone, and so he leaves, and now he's the bad guy when you wanted him. That doesn't make sense to me. But I think that the emotions paired with Oklahoma's defense on the road is going to be too much. But it's an interesting dynamic, and that'd be one worth watching. I think Florida's going to keep it close with Miami, to be honest with you. I think that game might be a hell of a lot closer than a lot of people are willing to admit. Sellers is going to play, but I think Missouri's going to blow out South Carolina. There's going to be real questions about Shane Beamer and his future. Even if Lenore Sellers plays, I think that game could get ugly after a close start. And then, as we talked about before, if you're an Ole Miss fan, just root for Arkansas to beat the hell out of Memphis. Alabama's not the same Alabama they have been. Why would game day ABC pick that over Ole Miss, LSU? I mean, presumably the answer would be ratings, but they go to Alabama, Georgia so much. I mean, if Georgia would have lost to Tennessee, then I think it would be easy Oxford. But their decision this weekend is head scratching to me. So who knows? But again, I have heard that they are preparing anyway to go to Oxford if they need to. You think they do something different? They seem to go to the same places every week, and that's kind of why I don't think you should just chalk it up to Alabama, Georgia. They've been to that game. There's nothing exciting about that. Glad Ole Miss is never going to Ullman again. I went in 23. It was so hot in such a narrow venue. Yeah, I mean, it's perfect for what they need, right? And the location is awesome, but I don't think an SEC team needs to play there anymore. Be cool for the series to be a yearly matchup. I would love for that, but I feel like Trinidad is forcing Lane and Weiss to be creative with getting the ball out quick to the weapons in space. In a way, I think the offensive game plans would be better for it. It was great on Saturday. Tulane is one of the better logos in college football and color scheme and everything. Didn't run the ball super effectively last week, but you never would have known it. The play calling made up for it against Kentucky. It was good. I expect to see more ground Saturday. A lot more ground, I think. Hope he's good and it wasn't just Arkansas being terrible. I don't think they're terrible. Terrible is a strong word. Mississippi State's defense a year ago was terrible. I don't think Arkansas is terrible. But yes, they will face better. I think long developing pass plays with this offensive line are irresponsible. It felt like they put Simmons in bad spots with the long ball. And I think they've done things differently from a protection perspective. So when Simmons does come back, they should be a little bit better there. Keeping the running backs in, made some personnel changes. So, been 2 SEC games, but so far the offensive line has looked better than last year. Again, it's early, but after the opening against UK, I've been mostly pleased. They did a lot to help them out on Saturday, too. Seems like individually, the defensive line wins their battles, but then as a unit, they're consistently out of position. See a man or two in the backfield almost every play. That's what we talked about after the game. I think that was their issue against Arkansas. So Hunter Yurachek lost his fan base more than he already has this week. Man, if I were a Hog, I'd want him gone. Oh, absolutely. The people that talk about doing things the right way, all that is just it's either A, somebody that wants to look holier than thou, even though they're not, so not practicing what they're preaching, or it's an excuse. South Carolina's in trouble. I agree. 2030, when North Carolina and Clemson join the SEC, exactly. Feels like we're hurtling towards a 30-ish team Super League with the SEC and Big Ten. A breakaway with a new playoff system would not surprise me. I think it would be bigger than 30, but I don't think it would be much bigger than 46 or so. All it takes is for Auburn to lose to Oklahoma and A&M and freezes back on the hot seat. No doubt Auburn can't throw the ball. No, they cannot. Would South Carolina be a lateral move from Ole Miss? It would be a downgrade. If you're asking from the perspective of would they go after Kiffin, hell no. I mean, they could try, but no. Those people over there think incorrectly that it's a better job, but Beamer's going to Virginia Tech if South Carolina blows it. Their infrastructure is so bad, though. Florida will lose, but when you think Napier's going to get fired, I think he will get fired before the Kentucky game, after the cocktail party. Is there a reason the staff seems to have such vanilla play calling with Simmons, yet gets creative with the backup? I mean, they scored in the 60s against Georgia State, and I thought they called a really nice game against Kentucky after Simmons stopped vomiting on himself. So Georgia Alabama has replaced Alabama LSU as the premier game in the league every year. Do you agree? I do. Arkansas is such an embarrassment in football. They simply don't care enough. It's insane what they've allowed to happen to their football program. Would you prefer Georgia Tech or North Carolina to join the? Definitely not Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech adds no value to the SEC whatsoever. I'm not sure that Clemson does, just because the SEC is already in South Carolina. Clemson's very close to Athens. I mean, Clemson's got a good brand at the moment, but North Carolina definitely adds something. I think Virginia has a possibility because new state plus money. But Georgia Tech, I mean, just they don't add any value. Who wins more games right now, Vanderbilt or Texas? Oh my gosh. Texas, because defensively they're so good. But yes, I agree with you. Vandy is legitimate. Does Virginia bring any value to the SEC? Money. They got a lot of it. I mean, that's what it would be. New state and money. They're also very good and value the other two sports as well. So that's a bonus, but money. Is Has expected to be playing this week? Yeah. But you got to take snaps away from Daquan Wright to give them to him. And Daquan has not earned the demotion. So take Notre Dame if they wanted. Yes, the SEC would absolutely take Notre Dame, 150%. Are they in the Southeast? No. Does it matter? No. Yes, I saw Dabo's meltdown. That was, I think, a lot of things. One, it was a guy feeling the heat, a guy that is a victim of his own success, and a guy that was not kidding. If Clemson is unwilling, is unappreciative, we could say, he will leave. His contract is somebody could, like Florida, could give him a reset. If Clemson's starting to get ungrateful, I mean, they made the playoff last year. So, is there a possibility to see Florida State in the SEC? I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyway. Yeah, 31. What did I say? 35-17? Isn't that what I said? Yeah. We'll go with that. I'll see you guys after the game. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your football. I'll see you after the game on Saturday. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell so when we go live, you'll be there for it. See you then.